It's tough, man. On Ime's part and the organization's part. Obviously, he made a huge mistake. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was consensual. I don't know what their dynamic was. But he put his career in jeopardy.
On today's Wind Up Wednesday edition of the Odd Coaches Podcast, Dr. Adams and the OCP team discussed the suspension of Ime Udoka, the Phoenix Suns ownership change, share their thoughts on NBA team moves, as well as wrapping up the WNBA season. Welcome to today's show. The Odd Coaches Podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, in my new studio that is unfinished, but we did finish the move. And with me today, my tag team partner is on a well-deserved break. Happy anniversary to my partner and his lovely wife. But with me today, I called the players and they came a-running. We got the captain himself, Will Cotton. Will, how are you this morning, sir?
How's it going? Good morning. Good morning. Great morning.
And speaking of mornings, we dragged Fowler and Campbell out of bed this morning. And Fowler, and it is always good to be with you, sir. How are you?
Man, I'm glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me. How y'all doing?
All right. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. So last week's show, we talked about administrative issues. And Mike is a budding administrator. And when you go from being classroom teacher to administrator, your eyes and things shift to how a big picture piece works. So you go from your classroom to your department to the entire school building to a system approach. So this past week, word got out that the Boston Celtics have suspended their coach, Ime Udoka. Shaq, did I pronounce that correctly, sir?
Ime Udoka, yeah.
Ime Udoka, thank you, because that's a Nigerian name, and we love and respect that. And let's just say he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, is what my daddy would say. Boston owner Wick Grusbeck said the organizational decision to suspend Udoka for the entire NBA season 2022-2023 came after an investigation by an independent law firm that uncovered multiple violations of team policy. Both the owner and the Celtics president of operations, Brad Stevens, said little bit about specifics of the case or what policies were violated, but the reason for the suspension is an alleged consensual but improper relationship. That is what the initial report said, and the suspension is effective immediately, and a decision about his future will be made later. Here's Boston's explanation. Once the organization was made aware of a potential situation in the organization within the past few weeks, it hired the law firm to conduct an investigation, which was concluded. It was at that point that the team chose to suspend the coach. That will end June 30th. A statement was made to Malika Andrews from Coach Udoka. Said, I want to apologize to our players, fans, the entire Celtics organization, my family for letting them down. I'm sorry for putting the team in this difficult situation, and I accept the team's decision. Out of respect for everyone involved, I will have no further comment. Why is this a big deal? The season-long suspension is largely unprecedented for a sitting NBA head coach. In his first season, took Boston all the way to the finals, and he is the fifth coach in the last 25 years to reach the finals in his first season. Also, according to research, he became the first rookie coach to win multiple Game 7s in the initial series. So I want to go to Boston's start process. Brad Stevens declined to answer questions when directly asked whether he would be able to have contact with anybody. The owner did say on multiple occasions that this felt right because there's no clear guidelines for this. Next steps, because we always have to walk through the process before we give our thoughts. According to Turner Sports, Udoka has no plans to resign, but there's no guarantee he'll be back. Joe Mazzulla, 34, will be taking on the job on an interim basis. He is tied to former Celtics assistant and Utah Jazz head coach Will Hardy. As the youngest coach in the league at 34, his only head coaching experience was 2 seasons at Fairmont State in West Virginia. Now, Joe Mazzulla has had some issues in the past. He was arrested while he was a student at West Virginia University, underage drinking, aggravated assault, case where he pleaded guilty, paid a fine. And then in 2009, there was a domestic battery incident in a Morgantown bar that was settled out of court and didn't go to trial. When he was hired as an assistant coach in 2019, Brad Stevens said he thoroughly vetted Mazzulla and those incidents in particular, and said he believes Mazzulla has learned from them. And Stevens personally believes in Mazzulla's character. And yes, Brad Stevens did not consider taking over. Before I speak about the situation, following, I want you to share your initial thoughts. And the reason why I went to following first is because Coach Udoka is of Nigerian descent, and it's hard to get a job. And I just wanted following to kind of share any additional thoughts he may have before we get to Will. So, following, what are your thoughts about the whole situation? And you are uncensored, sir. Share your thoughts.
I mean, it's tough, man. On Ime's part and the organization's part. Obviously, he made a huge mistake. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was consensual. I don't know what their dynamic was. But he put his career in jeopardy. You know, as far as being a black coach, your first year, and you do something like this, it's like, you know, how do you bounce back? How do you bounce back from something like this? And then on an organizational standpoint is, I feel like they jumped out and put this business out there really quick. You know what I mean? As far as I would say, it's none of our business because it's so personal for him, his family, the other person's family, like all of this stuff. Unless he's fired, you keep this internal for as long as you can. That's how I feel on an organizational plan standpoint. It's too much going on. There's too many people involved. You're hurting people's careers. No, I'm not saying not Ime, but you know the other person as well. So it's just a lot of moving pieces. And again, Ime, I don't know how he can bounce back from this. We're saying, okay, a suspension for the year, but I mean, spending this year, like how does it look coming back next year as the head coach? It just doesn't look right. You know what I mean? So I would be surprised if they would have bring him back, or if he would have get another head coaching job somewhere.
Will, please share your thoughts. And again, you have the floor.
I think a lot of people think that, you know, what's the problem? I think there's a lot of people on Twitter saying, well, you know, what's the problem? It was consensual. You know, there was no problem with that. But I think a lot of people have to understand that I think we're all, Fowler included, as we get older and we get into organizations, you can't have those sort of relationships. You can't do them. It's impossible. It doesn't work. There's too much, you know, permissions. There's too much work about doing it. You know, is there favors? You know, is there something like, hey, well, I'm sleeping with so-and-so. Is they going to get a job? Are they going to get a raise? Is they going to get a bonus? And I'm not going to get that because I'm not sleeping with that coach or anything like that. It's ethics, you know, that's behind the scenes. And strictly, you know, I'm going to stay outside of it from a personal side because as a married man, you know, that's that's something that for him and his wife or his girlfriend or fiance to discuss and figure out. But at the end of the day, I think the Boston Celtics made a huge mistake by just suspending him for a year. I think you either fire him, or you suspend him and give him the path to join the team during the year, but you don't really just make him leave in a year and then come back. And it's all of a sudden like, well, I'm back. Like, come listen to me, you know, run these plays. I need you guys to work for me hard. And guys are gonna be like, yo, man, like some guys take that serious. Some guys are very Christian, some guys are very religious, and they'll say, well, you know, why am I gonna listen to this guy? This guy's out here cheating on whoever and doing whatever he wants. He's not, you know, that changes the dynamic, the person that you are. You know, coach, you're a great person. You know, you've always have great character. And I think that's something that takes, people may have disagreements with you, but they can follow you because they know that you're a true blue kind of guy. And I think when people have certain questions about leaders, nobody wants to lead them. Nobody. I mean, look at Dan Snyder. The guy is so shady. It affects everything else in the organization. And Ime is the same way. He's a very high up position in the organization. That's going to affect things trickle down. It's unfortunate. One, obviously, a family is going to have to make a decision. But I think the ugliest thing that a lot of people don't talk about is, you know, we don't get a lot of chances as Black coaches, Black people in positions. And when us to get put in positions, we're put in spotlights. So now he's in the spotlight. Is that going to get thrown into for every other, you know, because like every other Black coach that only gets one, you know, Eric Bieniemy, you know, I mean, Todd Bowles, guys who have, you know, they do well, but it's like you mess up one thing, I can't move forward. He's really messed up a lot of people, families, the organization, and Black coaches that come in behind him. You know, you have a lot of, hate to say it, but you have a lot of white owners, white GMs, white presidents who are going to say, I don't want to have that Black guy. I don't want him around my wife. I don't want him around my kids. I don't want the organization. You know, and the thing that people have to understand is, and you know, I don't mean to go long, but this isn't the 2000s. This isn't the 1980s. This isn't the 1970s. Like, things that were maybe cool or approved, you know, in that time is no longer the same way. You know, the Me Too movement has definitely put a shed a light on things, and people, you know, acting inappropriately. And I think that he fell right into that trap. You know, it's really just unfortunate. And it's something that a lot of people were just upset for multiple reasons why. I'm just, you know, but I think at the end of the day, what I'll say is the Celtics should have fired him straight up. They should have fired him, cut ties, because now you're going to have to deal with this for the whole year and the whole off season if he comes back. I don't see there really is a path for him to come back. I really don't see there's a path. I think at some point he's going to just resign, quit, or they're going to fire him, cut ties, pay him whatever he wants to do, and move forward. You know, and I mean, who even knows if his replacement takes him to the title? I mean, what does that even complicates that even more? You know, if the Celtics with their new coach goes to the finals and they win, how do you bring back that guy and be like, oh yeah, he's the head coach now, bring him back? You know, so I think they should have just fired him. It's unfortunate they had to do it, but I think in the best name of the organization, they should have fired him.
Yeah, I don't know how Ime can bounce back after this. Again, it hurts. I mean, obviously, our Black coaches are on a thin leash. You know what I mean? And you know, him doing something like this, I don't know who can resign. You know what I mean? Like Will said, it's like, you know, some of these owners is like, well, you know, I don't want this guy around my wife, or you know, I mean, some of the players I don't want him around my wife. You know what I mean? Or my fiance. Like, it's going to be tough to bounce back from something like this.
Okay. And I thank you guys for your honesty and just sharing your thoughts. So this story in particular hit hard for me. Both of you played for me. Both of you saw me at a school with a lot of attention. And I'm still a high school coach, but it's a school with a story, tradition, and the littlest things caused issue. So my doctorate, for those who are new to the show, is in organizational leadership with an emphasis in organizational development. I've studied leaders and organizations and motivations and things like that for over 20,000 hours. So I feel comfortable. And just me saying that, it took me that to just feel comfortable having this conversation. Leadership is not a job. Okay. It's something that's a process that you go through. And although sometimes swift action needs to take place, it still should be done with a process in mind. So let's look at what happened. Structure is simply boundaries. And Shaq, give me the correct pronunciation of the last name, and I don't want to mess that up.
Udoka.
Udoka.
Yeah.
Coach Udoka violated team process and structure. He did. We all go through compliance trainings, some more recently than the others. As Following just started working at George Mason this past year. We all go every year through compliance training. And one of those compliance trainings has to do with this. So, okay. So there's your first thing. We've got an issue there. And yes, folks, that is a fireable offense in any industry. And then discipline is simply accountability. And that's the if-then situation of whatever has occurred. If this occurs, then this will happen. It's kind of clear. So the fact that they suspended him for a fireable offense and did so for the time period is problematic. And then support. No matter what any of us have done, we need high help. So whether he stays with the organization or not, there may be some help that's needed, some support that's needed, and it still should be provided, no matter what any of my players have done. And man, the stories you hear as an adult, they still knew that you have somebody there to support you. And to go to what Following said, it's a hard gig. And as a Black male in the business, it has been hard to do this. So coaching itself is hard enough without people adding to the problems. And when you're a person of color, it's even harder. And as mentioned in Tuesday's episode about NFL coaches, the standard is different. However, most problems are self-created. And man, you're in Boston. You're in Boston. That right there says the rules are different. However, I don't just put the coach on the line. I also put the organization on the line because the organization started the investigation in July and didn't suspend them then. And as listeners of the show know, I'm a fan of suspension while you clean up whatever you got to clean up, and then you make your joint statement, and then you move forward. So Boston put themselves in position that every game, every activity, every, this can be a question. So what should have happened, and this is free advice, what should have happened, because it's not going to happen, is Boston should have suspended them in July. And while this independent investigation takes place, crisis management clearly tells you to tell it all, tell it first, and tell it yourself. And then once the independent investigation took place, Boston should have learned, if they hadn't already, tell it all, tell it first, tell it yourself from the coach, and then they can make a joint statement and they can keep it in house and say, we decided to go in a different direction. He can explore other coaching opportunities. We're going to do this and we're going to keep it sealed. And if I can do that for silly stuff you did as a player Following and nobody knows, I think a big organization like the Boston Celtics could have done something, as well. Any comments on my thoughts before we actually get back on the court with Boston this year, starting with you, Following?
No, I totally agree with you. I think, like you said, it's tough it's a tough situation. Obviously, I was rooting for Ime. And then to see something like this is difficult. You know what I mean? He was in it, like you said, he's in Boston, got a good team, good situation, and you just throw it all away. So it's like, how can we root for you again? How can we, as a head coach, it's tough, man. It's a tough situation. So, I mean, I there's not much more I can say about it, man. It's just tough, man. I was rooting for the guy, and now he's throwing it all away.
Well, before we move back to the actual on-court situation,
I think we've kind of hammered May, the whole week. I think the Celtics, I mean, they're still a professional organization. The way they handled it was totally poor. Totally poor. I mean, putting that information out. I mean, first they risked the one Black woman who was working as a coach. Everyone was saying, "Oh, it must be her. It must be her." Everyone was putting her name out. They were putting her face out, and then they found out that it wasn't even her. I think Boston, they got caught up in their emotions, or whoever was connected to the relationships that got caught up. Because now you put a woman who wasn't even involved, were thrown out there. There were people were calling, "Oh, how could you do that to Nia Long? How could you do that? You're terrible. You knew he was, and they're throwing her name under the mud. And she wasn't even in part of it. I think the Celtics have to understand that social media is a huge tool, and they did a poor job of controlling the information and how the data went out. For example, this stuff, like Nia Long said, she put out a statement. She said, I found out through this, and how embarrassing is that if you're Nia Long and you find out on Twitter and social media that your partner is cheating like serially with two different people who you work with. 9 times out of 10, they probably met each other. So I think the Celtics really have to take a step back and really look at themselves as an organization and say, we really messed up with controlling the information and controlling the data. It could have been done, like you said, Coach. It could have been, you could have suspended him or whatever you need to do in July, get all the facts, and then now you're scrambling and people forget the season's about to start. The season is really like guys are, they're getting ready to go. And, how do you focus on that? How do you get into, the locker room and you have a whole different coach and a whole different perspective and mentality? It's bad. I think all the way down. I think people look at Ime and they say he's a bad coach, but I think the Celtics really shit the bed with their organization and how they handled that. And that was really poor. And it's just an ugly, ugly situation. I can't see. Now, I will say, this could be something that the Boston Celtics, oddly enough, they could rally behind that, the players. They could focus and say, we're tired of being asked about the coach. We're tired about this and talking about, let's just focus on play ball. Difficult to do that, especially when, so I really looked at the Celtics as a really a good brand, a flagship in terms of the organization. And they got caught up in their feelings and did not handle the information and data the best way they should have. And it's just unfortunate for everyone. It's just a mess right now. It's a mess.
Well, let's get it on the court. The Celtics, strictly for entertainment purposes only, are projected to win 54 and a half games. So they're a 55-win team going into the season. They're still a top 3 team. I don't care who's coaching. I'd come out and coach and compete right now. So the move with the coaching staff on the court, these things pretty much never bothered my players. You guys are players. Fowler played in college. Fowler played professionally. When the ball's thrown up, you're not thinking about any of that stuff because you're thinking about the screens and this and that. So the Celtics are still a top 3 team. How far do you think they can get, though? Because once the season starts, you got the NFL going on. You got all kinds of other things going on. So I think they can make it to the All-Star break pretty much, not scot-free, but shucks. Patriots are stinking up the joint right now. And what do they care more about in New England? The Celtics or the Patriots? I think they care more about the Patriots. So if Boston comes out and wins, if you win, nobody bothers you. So I am thinking, as we move on to our next portion of the show, I'm thinking they're still Brown and Tatum and those cats still can play and they're going to compete. So I appreciate you guys giving me the time. to talk about this. And now we're going to move on to Phoenix. Prince had a song that says, "Walk, Don't Walk." Well, owner Robert Sarver announced that he has begun the process to sell both the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury franchises. The quote he presented was, "As a man of faith, I believe in atonement and the path to forgiveness. I expect that the commissioner's 1-year suspension would provide the time for me to focus, make amends, and remove my personal controversy from the teams that I and so many fans love. But in our current unforgiving climate, it has become painfully clear that that is no longer possible. That whatever good I have done or could still do is outweighed by the things I have said in the past. For those reasons, I'm beginning the process of seeking buyers for the Suns and the Mercury." NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said he fully supports the decision. This is the right next step for the organization and the community. So fans, to reset what he did, he was suspended. Robert Sarver was suspended for a year, fined $10 million after an NBA investigation found that he used the N-word at least 5 times when recounting statements to others. He was also involved in incidents of inequitable conduct towards female employees,
and
including
male employees as well.
I'm reading the quote, so you can't yell at me, including sex-related comments and inappropriate comments on employees' appearances. Sarver finished his quote by saying, "Words that I deeply regret now overshadow nearly 2 decades of building organizations that brought people together and strengthened the Phoenix area through the unifying power of professional men's and women's basketball teams." So before I let you guys chime in, Adam Silver was harshly criticized for his handling of the situation because they thought he could have done more. And I am the opposite. I thought Adam Silver handled it as a 21st century leader should handle it. He's been suspended. He's been fined. Okay. Let the process take care of itself so we can see what direction everyone wants to go in. And the process took care of itself.
Exactly.
Because again, how angry and mad is Sarver when, and I think I have the numbers, fellas, don't cry for him, because he bought the team in 2004, July 2004. 2004 was a good year for us guys, for about $400 million. And the estimated value of the Suns right now is 1.8 billion. So yeah, it's hard for me to get upset about a dude that's about to get a windfall. So, again, 21st century leadership is a slow process, and you allow the steps to take place. Structure are the boundaries. He violated the boundaries. So discipline is accountability. If then he did this, so then this is going to happen, and then support, high help. Help the people who have been harmed by the wrong. Adam Silver did that, and people are still mad. Will, any thoughts? Because you are beaming on social media, and here's where you can sneak in your additional comments, sir.
I love it. I love it. I think, billionaires, they constantly think that they're going to get away with things. I think the best thing that they get their comeuppance. Right now we're currently seeing, and Coach, obviously your sports history is a lot more complete as mine, I will say. This is the first real situation I can remember. I see a lot of billionaires getting in trouble in the sports. You have your Dan Snyder, you have your Donald Sterlings, you have obviously Robert Sarver, you have the Panthers, the Panthers owner a couple years ago.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And there was a couple other ones. Now there's accountability. And I'm sorry, like we're all at least 30 years old. Everyone knows what words you shouldn't be using, especially what race you are. And if you really can't say, "I'm sorry, I know," come on, dude. Like, using that kind of language, like there's really no excuse. You know what I'm saying? You're using it in the employment, enterprise. You're using it in the organization. Like, how do you use that kind of language? I agree with you. I think Adam Silver people have to remember, he has to appease to the other owners in the league. And he had to make a penalty that was enough, but also fair. $10 million a year suspension. And like he did, he said social media was going to handle his thing. And it did. He's going to sell. The guy's rich, take your money, get out of here. We don't need that. But I think it opens up the opportunity for more minority owners. I think there have to be have that culture. I mean, it's difficult, but people tried to say, oh, I'm sorry, and I didn't mean that. You don't belong in the NBA. Using that kind of language, men, women. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's the NBA, NFL, MLB, DOD, government, education, anything like that. It was terrible, and he used his money to take advantage of people. So I think everyone kind of did look. Robert Sarver. He could have been an asshole and been like, well, I'm going to stay. I don't care. I'll do my year and I'll come back and I'll still on the team. And at least he's selling, as opposed to Dan Snyder, who's kind of like being staunch and not want to do anything. So, I'm glad he's getting out. We don't need that love and we don't need that in the NBA. The NBA wants to be more progressive in terms of they want to show that they're not the NFL and they want to be a little bit more supportive of minorities, and definitely and gender as well. So yeah, I think getting him out was the best situation. Him wanting to leave, getting this suspension quickly. He didn't kind of like complain about it. So I think it happened quickly. I think he realized he couldn't be the owner. And if we can all collective get our money, maybe all three of us could get the Suns. The three of us, CKA own the Suns. I think we can.
Won't be us. We are no budget productions, brother.
I don't know if we reach that goal, but I like that.
Maybe we put in our shekels and see if we can get a little piece. But no, I mean, it has to happen. It has to happen. And I hope that the NBA is part of that search. Can't just sell the team to. I mean, you can whoever you want to. It's yours, but you're the owner. But it's difficult. But at least he's out. Move forward. It was quick. It was swift. I'm glad. Move forward, and they can focus on basketball.
Follower, any thoughts before we close out the segment, sir?
Yeah, man. It's it's simple and short. Just starting with Adam Silver. I think he did a good job. The fine could have been a little more steep. You know what I mean? 10 million to a billionaire is nothing. So I wish it was
left to LeBron. She just the owner.
Exactly. Like silly, that's like $10. So you could have made a little more because that money's obviously
going in his pocket. Talking about, all right.
Exactly. Here you go, man. You know what I mean? So again, like I said, that money's supposed to be going to a good cause, so it could have been a little more steeper. And then as far as just Robert Sarver, these billionaires, they just feel like they're untouchable. They can say whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. And I'm glad he got caught. You know what I mean? I'm just glad he got caught because who knows how often he says it or how often what he does. You know what I mean? And
talking about I used it just 5 times. Man, there's nobody use that 5 times.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. You know what I mean? Again, like I said, I'm happy he got caught. And the thing is, they were going to leave. They were going to force him to sell the team anyway. We've seen this happen to Donald Sterling. It's just inevitable. You know what I mean? And whether he's just going to be like, just stay with it and have everybody get on him about it, or just like, look, let me put it away. Let me get it. Just sell the team and go on with my business. You know what I mean? And again, I just feel like I said, these owners can say and do whatever they want because how much money they have. But I'm glad he's being held accountable for his actions. And I just can't wait for him to get out of there. That's all.
Five times. Even I don't say it 5 times at my job.
he says the
What are you saying? You're saying it all.
All right. So with that, we're going to let that be the final comment for that. And in our second segment, we're going to talk about NBA player news as well as a college basketball young man that could use some counsel. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
There is an old business adage that says, what gets measured and monitored gets done. It is also fact that deadlines spur action. That is what the CKA Save Project academic monitoring service can do for student athletes. Measure and monitor their academic progress to improve their grades. Our academic monitoring services provide ongoing academic support for student athletes for a designated period of time. Our academic success coaches work with student athletes on time management and organizational skills, along with improving their ability to self-advocate. Every few weeks, our academic success coaches meet with student athletes to assess their academic progress, as well as provide ongoing academic advising. If needed, student athletes have access to CKA Learning Specialists who provide virtual core subject academic support for student athletes. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. And in segment 2, we're going to talk about team and different player news and notes. Amani Bates is in the news for all the wrong reasons. He's in some trouble. So Amani Bates is a former high school star who transferred from Memphis to Eastern Michigan this summer, and he was arrested about 2 miles from campus, Eastern Michigan's campus, after sheriff's deputies discovered a firearm in a vehicle he was driving. Officers initiated a traffic stop because he failed to stop at an intersection. Bates was charged with carrying a concealed weapon and altering ID marks on a firearm. He was arraigned and asked that a plea of not guilty be entered from his attorney. The judge agreed to personal recognizance, and a court date is scheduled for early October. There's more to the story based off of what his attorney said, and it appears that he borrowed someone's car, was pulled over, and a gun was in the car. Per Michigan's penal code, a person charged with carrying a concealed weapon can face imprisonment for not more than five years and a fine of up to $2,500. The charge of altering an ID carries a penalty of up to 2 years and a fine of $1,000. Before you guys chime in, let me tell the fans a little bit about his journey. Bates is a 6'9" small forward and was considered one of the elite basketball prospects in the country throughout his high school career, ranking number 1 in the 2022 class until he reclassed and ended up number 3 in 2021. He originally committed to Michigan State, then reopened his commitment before reclassifying and committing to Memphis. His lone season in Memphis under Coach Penny Hardaway was uneven. He missed 15 of 33 games because of a back injury that required him to return home, see a specialist, and then he struggled when he returned to the floor. Before I give my thoughts, following as somebody who was a profiled high school athlete, 1, have you followed the case? And 2, any thoughts you have on Mr. Bates?
I followed the case a little bit. It is difficult because Imani, he went back home. He went back to Central Michigan to be near home. And yeah, he has family around. Who knows what his family is? You know, I don't want to say anybody's a gang member or anything like that, but who knows what's going on? And now when you go back home and you're around all the things like that and you know what's going on, especially if you borrow somebody's car, your first question is what's in the car. I mean, as a black male basketball player who has the potential to go to NBA, you know what your environment is. You gotta ask what's in the car, like what's going on, because you know you have a possibility of being stopped. Even when I was in school in Fairfax, Virginia, I was stopped multiple times. I was told to get out of the car. My car was searched. I was searched. So it just happens. You know what I mean? That's just how it is now. You know what I mean? So especially being over there in Michigan, it hurts me because I don't think the gun was his. I don't know. Don't quote me. But again, it's like, look, you're in a car. That's not your car. You don't know what's in there. You got to ask questions. I just hope it doesn't destroy his future. Because I do think he has a lot of potential. Even if it's not the NBA, he can go to Europe or G League, whatever he wants to do, get some money. But this kind of hurts him. You know what I mean? It hurts him a lot. made a bad decision. I mean, I can't even say he made a bad decision. I honestly believe it wasn't his. Again, I don't know. But again, it's like you got to ask questions. You got to know your environment. You got to know what's going on. And it's a tough situation.
Will, any thoughts, sir?
When people get heralded and say, he's the new LeBron, and I think we went through that with the next, who's going to be the next Jordan or the next Kobe. Mm-hmm. Ability is really a part of it. If you think about LeBron, that guy is pretty squeaky clean. I mean, he does things the right way. He's never caught out drinking. You've never seen him caught with women. You've never seen him out doing things, suspending things like that. And there's a big part of that people don't say, that they want to give him credit for that. Again, like Shaq said, I don't know if that gun was his, but it's going to be his for now until proven why. When you go to a coach in the NBA and they're going to say, hey, man, what happened with that gun? And it looks even worse is the serial number is scratched off, which obviously means it's a legal gun. So then, you also have to talk about who are the people that you're hanging out with. Because, okay, Armani, it's not yours, but who are you hanging out that has access to a gun that needs an unregistered gun on them right now? Like, what are you doing right now? Because people have to understand. And this happens to, and this is unfortunate because this is outside of the urban areas. Nobody drives around, unless you're in Texas or something, nobody's driving around with an unregistered gun, especially if you're underage. Mm-hmm. It's a bad look. It speaks to maturity. Like Shaq said, I think it's bad if, he shouldn't have stayed away, maybe Eastern Michigan or wherever. He shouldn't have stayed home. Because, I think even Kevin Durant said the same thing. He said, I don't really want to come back. I didn't want to come to play for the Wizards because then I get caught up with all the people that I have and all this connections, and I can't focus on stuff like that. It's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate. Hopefully that everything gets cleared up. I think the issue was never, I think his back. I mean, obviously he's still growing. He's a little kid. I mean, he's 17, 18. The body doesn't really mature for a long time. So I can understand he's not, healthy. But when it comes down to character, I think that's a big thing. Character. How are you going to act now if I give you $1 million? How are you going to act when you have $1 million and now you don't have any structure, when you can go play and do wherever you want and do anything you want? And just looking recently with the what's the forwarder from Minnesota? Anthony
Edwards.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards. Yeah. I mean, look at it. Maturity. He wants to video some guys who are at a club, and he wants to make some comments. And now he ended up paying them, I think, like $20,000 or something crazy like that. It was a good, maybe even more. Please, don't quote me on that, but it was it was a lot of money. I couldn't get the word out. All right, sorry about that. It was a lot of money. So, guys are going to be wary of that. You know what I'm saying? But for me, in this gun culture area that we're going to kind of have now, you got to be like Shaq, you got to be protected. And if you're going to borrow somebody's car, you ask, what's in it? Take your stuff out, dude. I don't care if you're going to let me borrow. I don't care what you're into. Take your drugs, take your guns, take your contraband, take it out of the car. I think whoever was his friend is not really his friend. Because that could have been the situation too. Because somebody who could have been jealous, secretly saying, "Man, I was nicer in high school, and he should be getting up. I'm gonna get him. Don't worry. Hey, you want to borrow my car, man? Go ahead. Hey, man, you can borrow my joint." And who knows if they planted it? And then they said, "Hey, man, there's Amani Bates driving with a gun in the car. I know. I saw him leave." So there's a lot of things that you can speculate. Like Shaq said, hopefully the facts come in. And he was just, mistake, just had this at the same time. I hope that's not I hope that's not the real true of having that. But it was just happening. It was sad, man. And, I followed the kid from high school. I was really excited about him playing. And this just is one of the things that kind of, people are always going to say, man, remember I hope he's not one of those kids that just man, I hope he was good. I mean, look, remember Sebastian Telfair? He was a phenom, and at the end of the day, the guy had an okay. He had a. I mean, in my opinion, people say great. I think he had a pretty good NBA career. He played, I think, over 10 years. I mean, that's a hell of a career, in my opinion. Gets in trouble with guns. You know, when will athletes understand that having guns is just not working for us, especially for Black athletes? I mean, I've never seen a Black athlete get pulled over and they find gun and they're like, oh, Mr. Fowler, and everything looks like it's in check, in order. You're good to go. Enjoy. Well to go. It's always like, we found so and so in gun. Look at what's his name? Montrezl Harrell just got caught in Kentucky with a whole bunch of drugs and a gun.
And the fact that you can roll that many off the top of your head is problematic as it is.
It's terrible.
So, fellas, this hurts for me. Part of the reason why the CKA Safe Project exists is because when I was a college coach, I'm out on the road and there are players I want to recruit. And for whatever reason, I couldn't do it. And I kept seeing that over and over. And it took me back to a story of my own high school coach that we talked about in the book, that I said, man, one day we're going to get everybody together and we're going to try to make a difference. And I'm doing this, and I'm usually with my partner, but I'm doing this with one of my players who we have gone through the process. And so grateful and so proud that you came out on the other side. But I recall a private conversation we had once when you were in Europe, and you said, Coach, thank you. And I was like, well, I do. I'm like, but it was like we were talking, and then it was a random thank you. I'm sitting in the locker room with guys, and they're talking about their experiences. And I didn't have any of those because you looked after me. When I did wrong, you corrected me. When I did right, you praised me. And as I was reading Imani Bates' story, it's like, who is in his day-to-day? Who's his, you were in my modern world history class, so we taught, we looked at your writing, and you had to do presentations, and I mean, here's how you do an interview, and darn it, don't you say that. And not a lot of people have folks just in general, forget athletics, to just kind of say there's a better way to do it. Not a right way or a wrong way, but a preferred way. And we don't raise you in bubble wrap. People make mistakes all the time, and you're there. So part of why I wanted to cover this was there's an old expression that says, don't forget me when you become a star. And the player says, don't forget me if I don't. And that's kind of why I'm going to pitch again our services. If you're a student athlete, you need independent people in your life to kind of help you, give you other things to think about. And please feel free to reach out to us at www.ckasafeproject.org and schedule a free consultation, you, your family, your coaches, because these things happen on a regular. I have personally had players who had the car situation where they're in a car, and although they weren't involved in any of the things that were going on in the car, they're in the car. So now you're involved, and that's called life. And careers are ruined by that. So, Following, any thoughts before we transition? Because again, you lived this with us.
Yeah, no, that's a sad situation, man. Again, he goes back home and he knows the environment he's in. You know what I mean? So even if he's considered guilty or whatever it is, like he knew what he was going back home. He wanted to go back home to be around friends and family. And he got caught up. Huge mistake, because again, I see he has a lot of potential. He's one of the guys that was talked about coming out of high school as a number 1, 2, 3 prospect, in the NBA. So yeah, he had an injury last year, but he still, if he can get himself together, he has potential to, if not make it to the NBA, go to Europe, go to the G League, get money. And he can possibly throw all that away with this case, and it's sad. Because again, I said, like I've been stopped before, you know what I mean, in Fairfax, Virginia, and being around you, Coach, I knew how to act. I knew what to do. I knew how to, just look. All right, look, you search a car, hands up. I'm gonna sit down. I understand. Okay, look, you say you want to put the handcuffs on me because you think I'm a bigger guy. Cool. Like, I'm listening to everything that Cobb has to say because I know I'm in the right. You know, so it's just tough for him because again, he went back home and this is what's happening. You know what I mean? And that's the sad part about it. So we'll see how this plays out.
All right, as we transition now to the NBA, because the season is upon us. Training camps will be starting very soon, I believe this week. So I want to go through some quick hitters. And now we're all on the court. Boston announced Friday that center Robert Williams III will return to basketball activities in 8 to 12 weeks after undergoing surgery on his left knee. The surgery, which team said was done to remove loose bodies and address swelling in his left knee, is the second one Williams has had to have on that knee this calendar year. Will, we talked about the coaching situation. Now we're on the court. What kind of impact is Robert Williams's 8 to 12 weeks, and he ain't going to be healthy when he gets back, going to have on the team itself on the court?
Oh, I mean, based on what we saw last year, I mean, he was a huge piece. That guy was doing all kinds of things, blocking shots, moving guys out the way, rebounding, creating space, with screens. It'll be difficult for them to get through, especially if the first guys you're playing, Giannis, that's a big man. So that's one guy, that's one down. The second person you're going to play, Embiid, two of the top guys, you don't even really have someone to counter against them. And then obviously you get into the Nets and then go through, but it'll be difficult. It'll be difficult because if the Bucks and the Sixers are the two teams that need to, get through the East with Boston, they're gonna need their big man. They're gonna need the big man, even to kind of contain him in a way. I mean, I know containing Embiid is like, 25 and like 11, that's containing him. But it'll affect them. It'll affect them because when you change the rotation, you change the game. And not only are you changing the rotation, you're changing the coach. So there's going to be a lot of things that guys are unfamiliar when the game starts. We'll see how they flow through. We'll see how their game plan and how they plan and how they get ready for the games and how guys really believe in it. I remember there was always a little back and forth between Tatum and Brown. I think there was a little back and forth in terms of who's going to be scoring. So it's going to be interesting. I think they're going to struggle in the early parts, and I think hopefully they can rally, and once they get Robert together, they can make a run. But I honestly don't have them. I have them making somewhere around like 4 and 6 seed. I don't have them being in the top 3 or so like that.
All right. Thanks, Will. Following, what do you think? What did the impact on Robert Williams' injury on the Celtics on the court?
I don't think it's a big impact. I mean, it's the beginning of the season. I mean, you plug and play, you keep it moving. His impact will be come playoffs.
Okay.
That's when they're going to need him. So they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Okay. Clippers, Kawhi Leonard has finally been cleared to participate in full training camp activities. That means 5 on 5. Also, Paul George is back from his torn UCL in his right elbow. Following, are the Clippers ready to take that step?
Yes, they are. I mean, with this team, Kawhi, Paul George, John Wall with motivation. The supporting cast. You got a great coach. I feel like they're the team to beat. Obviously, the Golden State Warriors are the Golden State Warriors, but with this team healthy, they're the team to beat, in my opinion.
Cotton Man, Clippers time. Are we going with them? Putting a little money on it.
Yeah, best LA team is now the Clippers. They'll do well. I think they'll be healthy and motivated, and I think they can definitely get it to the finals at least.
And that's the key, like you said, they got to be healthy, man. Because they're known for being injured. I mean, they get injured during the season. So
yeah.
All right, Nets. Ben Simmons said in an interview published last week that he just wanted help during his time with the Philadelphia 76ers. He said he was in a bad place and he's trying to get there, and it just didn't work out. Had some strong comments about Doc Rivers and some of his teammates. He said he tried to do the right thing, But now he is with the Nets, and he is expected to be ready for the start of training camp, joining Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Will, with everything that has happened in Brooklyn, are they ready to make that top 3 step?
I don't think so. I think you still have the same guys. You have the same guys. It's hard to believe on those guys. Talent, great, all of them. On paper, they should win at least 2 championships the next 3 or 4 years. But it's the mentality. It's that. I'm rooting for them, but I don't think it's going to happen for the Nets this year.
All right, following Brooklyn. Are they ready?
They ready. Hey, I don't care what's going on off the court. When you got 2 of the best scorers in the game, when you step in between those lines, all that stuff off the court doesn't matter. They're gonna come out there and play. We're talking about a healthy Brooklyn team.
They can't stop nobody though. That was never the issues. They can't stop anybody.
But that's why you get Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is there to guard the best player on the opposite team. I don't need. I need simple triple. I need 10, 10, and 10. Plain and simple. If I can get that from Ben Simmons, I'm cool. That's it. And I just need him to be in a short corner when you see KD going to work and Kyrie, and you get the little dump off, or you can run the pick and roll with KD.
Are they getting Joe Harris back?
He's supposed to be back. So
because he was out all last year for an ankle.
And now you got the shooters around him, and then you got Ben Simmons guarding the best player, and then you just get a big to be there in front of. I mean, you can put Ben Simmons in front of you. You know what I mean? Like it's just a lot of things that I'm excited to see this Brooklyn Nets team. Man. It's gonna be a good year. It's gonna be a fun year.
I'm excited to watch them play.
All right, Chicago guard Lonzo Ball will undergo arthroscopic debridement surgery on his left knee and will be reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks. The surgery is scheduled for next week, this coming week, and then the procedure will take place 8 months after an initial knee surgery. Ball hadn't played since January. It's the 3rd time in his career that Ball will have knee surgery, and man, he's going to be 25. So what are you thinking about Ball coming back? Shaq, is that doable, or is he pretty much done?
Nah, he's still young. I mean, 25 is still young. It's just, I really believed in this Bulls team, man, and he's a big piece. He's really a big piece. Even with Levine and DeMar and the rest of the crew, he's the engine. You know what I mean? Like him and Caruso are the engine. So losing him for a long period of time is going to hurt them. I'm interested to see how this Bull team look this year.
All right, Will, any thoughts on the Bulls, sir, with Lonzo Ball being injured?
Oh man, it kills me. I love the way that he worked on his game. I worked that he came up with so much scrutiny coming on with all them with his father and everything coming in. I want him to be healthy. Now I have to ask a question, Shaq. Why are so many guys are getting surgery right before the season? If that was something that were known maybe 2-3 months ago, maybe like June or May, why are guys getting surgery now, right before the season starts?
That's a great question, actually. But the thing is, when you're working out during the summer, it's when you start ramping up. You know what I mean? Like when you start getting going, because when you work out during the summer, especially NBA guys, they work on certain moves. They work on skill development. They don't go super hard and going crazy. So like when you start ramping up towards like, all right, now the season, now you're in training camp. Now we're ramping up. We're doing these running. We're running and we're outside running. Or we're doing it, whatever they want to do as conditioning. Now these aches and pains start coming. It's like, hold on. You know what I mean? Like I understand. Like, dang, why are they doing it right before the season? But that's just how it is sometimes. Like when you start ramping up quickly, these nagging injuries start to occur.
And Will, I'm going to take you back to your career. We got back in August, September. And as Fowler said, once we start doing stuff, because you want the body to heal. And you don't know that at this kind of speed, this kind of pace, this kind of whatever, that's going to happen. In addition, I want you to think about the fact that a lot of these injuries are overuse injuries. Because they have been playing on horrible surfaces throughout their entire careers, playing, 80, 90 games with tournaments and this, that, and the other, pounding. So the body does not have time to rest. So now, as you're about to do your professional activities, you are seeing, man, this just doesn't feel right. It's still swollen. I got to sit out an insert drill. And then finally, it's like, man, we're about to play and I can't go at the way I need to go. And that's kind of my take on that piece, which takes me to our last story of this segment. And you didn't even know you did that, following, but what a segment, what a segue. How much is too much? So there's a matchup coming up with Bronny James that headlines a 90-game schedule for Overtime Elite. Overtime Elite's going to play 90 games.
It's crazy.
They expanded their league to 6, and they include prep schools, Hillcrest Academy from Phoenix, Word of God Academy from Raleigh, and Our Savior Lutheran from New York City, which includes home and away games. Home and away games, I'm sorry to say. OTE does have a lot of good things going on, and that's Overtime Elite. A lot of eyeballs on the product. The California Basketball Club, featuring Bronny James and Bryce James, who are the sons of LeBron James, will be shared and showcased. The number 1 player in the class of 2025, Cam Boozer, son of Carlos Boozer. He's considered one of the best high school prospects in the country. He has a twin brother, Caden Boozer, who's also a top prospect. Overtime Elite currently has 30 players under its umbrella, including Amen and Asar Thompson, who are projected top 5 picks. By the way, young players, pay attention, as we're trying to get you to do on the show. So part of this shift in strategy is that OTE is offering players the opportunity to forego a salary while still being eligible for name, image, and likeness. So they've got the number 3 prospect in 2024, the number 6 prospect. They got 2 European prospects from Spain. But that's a lot of games, man.
Yeah.
So following, as somebody who went through this process, albeit controlled because you had a mean coach who tried to protect you, what are your thoughts on what Overtime Elite's doing, good and bad? But 90s old, what are you doing?
Hold on. So the players are not getting paid?
So you have the option. If you want to maintain your eligibility, you can forego a salary so you can still participate in college if that's what you want to do, or you can be fully professional and gain a salary. It is all in what you as the individual player wants to do, and that goes to the option piece. And there's only 60 slots in the NBA draft, and as we did on our show, well, most of those slots are starting to go elsewhere instead of the traditional pathway. But I digress. And what are your thoughts on that?
So I think I remember, because I think that I know the Twins, they're trying to go to the G League. So I'm assuming they're getting some money. And they just played in the TBT, so I don't know if they're eligible to go to college anyway. So
nor do they have to. I said, nor do they have to, because there's another
exactly.
pathway.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, well, if some of those guys are getting paid, I mean, well, now you're on an NBA schedule. You know what I mean? Like, that's exactly what they're preparing you for. But yeah, no, it's definitely a lot of games, especially for a high school student. But in high school, man, the way your body goes, like, you feel like you can play 1,000,001 games. You know what I mean? So I enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I would love to play a lot of games. Obviously now I'm like, hold on, I can't play 80 games. But in high school, man, I would love to play Gaithersburg 5-6 times. You know what I mean? I would love to play Wheaton and Rockville, 10 times. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't, because it was hard to keep y'all engaged in the games that we were supposed to win. I don't want to hijack the segment. Will, what do you think about the 90-game schedule before I get myself in trouble locally?
It's a lot. I mean, but like Shaq said, when you're young and you're playing, you're not even looking at that stuff. I hope there's just somebody who's looking at the kids and they're putting their best, I guess their best favor. Like, they're looking at them and saying, is this going to be the best opportunity for the child, for the kid? Because they're still kids. That's one thing that's get lost. Make sure that they're healthy. I mean, make sure they're constantly like, hey, you're playing 90 games, dude. Make sure your knee's good. Make sure you're, teach them about nutrition. If you're gonna have kids and you're gonna have them and you're gonna pay them, teach them nutrition. Teach them how to stretch. Teach them how to yoga. Teach them how to take off a day off. Have them teach it, because I'm learning myself how to take a day off. And I know being 18, 19-year-old William Cotton, day off, like, man, I'm playing tomorrow. And I'm playing tomorrow too. And again, like, you have to say, okay, now relax, hold on. So they have to, so I don't have a problem with the 90 games because they're young and they should be doing it, but there should be adults who are monitoring the health aspect of that, so that those kids don't get burned out and they don't, like, they damage their knees and their hands. I mean, look at Imani Bates. The guy is already 19 and he's having back issues, back issues. Joel Embiid with the foot, with his first 2 years in the NBA. Just take care of the kids. Take care of the kids' health. Take care of the bodies and the nutrition. I don't have a problem with the games because they can handle it, but take care of the body. Take care of the kids.
90 is just a tad bit too much for Coach Adams.
That's a lot.
But
Coach,
I digress. Talk to me.
How many games did we play during the season? Tournaments, preseason?
25, man.
25?
25.
90?
That was 90. And a good college program plays about 33. And the NBA, real talk, fellas, are complaining about 82, and they want to drop it to 70 with a mid-season tournament. And these jokers are trying to play 90. What are we doing? Okay, at the end of the day, what are we doing?
Now that I think about it, you're right.
But if you think about it, is there a correlation that's to all the games that are playing now, to all the young players now who come into the game and have injuries,
now,
like
William,
Lonzie Ball?
You see how the lesson plan came about, sir. We've got Oklahoma City and Chet injured. We've got Lonzo Ball at 25 with 3 and 4 knee injuries, overuse. And then I'm looking at someone who I forced not to have overuse, and what a benefit it was for his career to have fresh legs in the summer going against tired legs. And it worked out for you pretty good. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. History will prove Adams right eventually. And we'll be right back on the iCoaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. In segment 3, we are going to send off the WNBA season the right way. Is this a dynasty in the making? So first of all, congratulations to the Las Vegas Aces for winning the WNBA title in 4 games, as somebody predicted. Mike, I said 4. Anyway, Coach Becky Hammonds was believed to be among the candidates who might break the glass ceiling to become the first woman head coach in one of the 4 major sports leagues. But Boston picked somebody else, and man, did that not work out. Segment 1. Fowler, and I know you followed the series. Any thoughts? Is this a dynasty in the making with the Las Vegas Aces?
It's not a dynasty unless Becky stays. I honestly believe she will break the ceiling and go to the NBA. I think during the season, who knows, Atlanta Hawks or somebody, I don't know, has a bad season. I think she can become a head coach in the NBA. There's no reason for her to stay in the W unless
why do you have to say it that way, man?
I mean, I'm just saying, no. When I say that, I mean because obviously an NBA team can offer her more money, and I mean she would be the pioneer of starting something new in the NBA. Now, if she does stay in the with Vegas, with most of their team coming back under contract, that's going to be a tough team to beat. You got 3 of the top players: Chelsea, Kelsey, and Aja Wilson. I mean, that's a tough team to beat. You know what I mean? And we got to see what other teams do. I had a lot of rumors about Chicago breaking up and Vandersloot going to see. Look, this is all a bunch of rumors. But again, I think if Becky's not there, they're not 3-peating or becoming that top team.
All right, Will, is this a dynasty in the making, sir?
I hope. I hope, man. I think that really exposed the WNBA, and people can get some more fans and watch the stuff and really know that these women can really ball, man. It'd be tough for Becky to stay. Money talks. And opportunity, history. But I think they become I think they could be a dynasty. I'm gonna keep it real. I think they could be a dynasty. I don't think people will catch up until Becky leaves, and they'll catch up, and then they'll finally. But I think for the next couple, 2-3 years, the team to beat.
Well, she's good at what she does, and whatever it is, I'm sure she will be successful. Just say niet. Brittany Griner's publicly publicized legal woes in Russia has cost them a lot of players, as well as the invasion of the Ukraine. So for the past decade, Russia has been the preferred off-season destination. Their salaries are awesome, but that has come to a quick end due to Griner's detainment. So Brianna Stewart, Griner's teammate on their Russian team, although they paid her millions, she says, I'm not going. Nearly a dozen WNBA players competed in Russia last winter, and they're not going. We're not going either. So Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA's commissioner, also mentioned the players having to stay home, the prioritization. She said at the WNBA finals, that players could make up to $700,000 this year between base salary, marketing agreements, award bonuses, but that's only a few select players. So the big thing in the offseason we're going to look for is that prioritization piece, because you are now not able to play in the WNBA if you choose to stay in your overseas leagues until the season starts. Will, have you paid any attention to prioritization, 1, and 2, do you agree with it as a policy?
I haven't really paid any attention to it, but I don't agree with it. If the goal is for them to make money, then I'll give them the opportunity to make the money, even if outside of their respective contracts.
But if I'm the Washington Mystics and Elena Delle Donne is not here at the start of the season, I'm not making money for the Mystics. So although the WNBA doesn't pay as much, the season is shorter, even though they're trying to extend it. And what if you get hurt playing somewhere else? Now you're costing me money. That's the other side of the prioritization issues. So stay here, help us all year, as opposed to, but again,
well, if they could influx some money, I mean, that could, kill. That would still solve the problem. I believe the Mystics are still owned by Leonsis, right? I believe, yeah. Yes. I mean, dude, invest some money, invest in your team. If you don't want, if you want Delle Donne playing overseas, give her some money so that she feels comfortable that she doesn't have to do that. I don't know. You have to give her like $30 million a year, but give her something that she doesn't have to go and, make her checks connect, do it like that.
Right.
It's difficult, but I don't think the owners of the WNBA teams don't meet and say, how do we viable? The popularity is crazy right now for the WNBA. How do we maximize that? And I don't think they're actually taking it. I don't think they're taking that seriously. And they're just like, well, whatever, keep playing, instead of really making a viable money organization. And now they're complaining about it. So if you're going to complain about it, sit down and come out with a plan that allocates certain money to players so they don't have to do that. Or you're going to get this.
What do you think about prioritization, Fowler?
So there's a lot going on. First of all, with the Russia situation, I understand a lot of players don't want to go over there because of Brittany Griner's situation, but also, I mean, they're in the midst of a war. You know what I mean? So it's yeah, like it's on the men's side too. A lot of players are just not wanting to go over there because, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? It's a tough situation. And as far as the money, you got to realize the WNBA is only 2 months, and you got they're making about the top players are getting about 200,000, 250 for 2 months. Now, again, it's 2 months, so now you got 10 more months of doing nothing.
Right.
So let them go over the season, unless you extend the season, which I think they're trying to do, and make, I want to say 6 months. But now, if you extend the season, it's difficult to get the viewers because you're extending into football season. You're extending into the NBA, like the college basketball. Like you're extending into this, this market. So it's like, how are we really going to get more viewers? You know what I mean? So it's tricky. It's really tricky.
I want to argue with you because my partner has heard me say this, and now I want to say this to you. Mm-hmm. The WNBA put their finals against NFL Sunday. That was their choice. That was their call.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You listeners of the show have heard me complain about not being able to find the product or the product being on secondary markets. Mm-hmm. My partner does not want the WNBA to expand because they haven't taken care of the players they got now. Why you want to have more? And my argument is there's only 144 players in WNBA. It's the hardest league to make.
Mm-hmm.
They have to expand. But let's also think about this. Basketball season's in the winter. They're choosing to make it a summer sport. So if you're choosing to make it a summer sport, then let's make it a summer sport. Let's start in March, at the end of March Madness, when there's a fervor, okay? And then let's extend it and take over August. You have until NFL games start to kind of have a market because, hey, no disrespect, we don't do baseball because baseball didn't do us, okay? Right. So I'm not worried about competing with the Yankees, okay? They're fifth slot on SportsCenter now anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's my argument. And then the prioritization piece takes care of itself because I don't want you to go anywhere else. If you recall with your own career, we worked together with you played for multiple AAU teams. Will never happen again, but we based it off the schedule and your health. Because as we said in the previous segment, we didn't want a lot of reps in bad leagues and bad games and bad tournaments playing on. And the floors these guys play on. So I would really love if the W called me up and Mike and I could do that piece. So I will allow you to respond to that before we wrap up everything.
I did have a quick question. I have a quick question. Now, why not? So I guess my question is, if the idea is that you're going to expand the league, why can't you allocate that money and push that to the players instead of pushing out more teams? If you're going to allocate money to teams,
because you got to have the team operations, and then the players are a part of the team operation. So you've got to, because you still got to pay for the facilities, still got to do that, still got to do this. So players get X amount of part of the pot, but they do need to increase. And one of the things that I had said, and Mike totally disagreed with it, is the NBA has G League. So now they get to train the next generation of players, next generation of officials.
Yeah.
Because that's an issue. Next generation of coaches. So that's a full investment. And then the argument is, well, is it the NBA's job too? And I say, yes, if John Wall can make $40 million sitting at home, we can find money to invest.
That they tell him to stay home. It's not like he was.
I'm just saying, if John Wall can make $40 million to stay home, if Kyrie can make $35 million picking and choosing when he plays, again, that's not get your money, get your bag, as we like to say, get the bag. Then there's money to be had if you have investors. Yeah. So that's my issue with the entire thing is if we're gonna do it, let's go do it. And if not, we're going to be going around in circles, man. But
I wonder if there was a tax benefit to have players buy into
always
the
a tax
WNBA
benefit.
Teams.
So,
I mean, imagine if you went up, you were like, hey, you get X amount of, tax benefits or tax exempts if you put X amount of dollars into, quote unquote, the organization. That would help it. I mean, and it proves that the guys like Dame, John, Bradley Beal, they love to go to NBA games. I see them all the time. I wonder if they're in sort of like tax exempt or tax status that they can do by investing money into the WNBA and allocate the salaries a little bit more. I wonder. Again, I'm just the idea guy. So I know there's a lot of like functionality.
Go ahead, Fowler. Go ahead, buddy.
Because we're talking about extending the WNBA. They have their draft, end of March, April?
Yeah.
But it's crazy. Isn't their draft like the day after their last?
Something like that. And then they jump right in May. The April, training camp May, and games in like June, and then it ends in August. So you're right, like 2 months.
Yeah, so what do we, like when we say expand, like how many months are we trying to have a WNBA season? Until when? December?
Well,
I'd be cool March to August. For real.
To double the amount of games, so make it 60 games. And then that's how you go backwards.
So are you
ending in August?
More games in that same span? Are you saying you have more games in that same 2-3 month span?
I'm saying you start your season earlier. You push the draft and everything to postseason, similar to what the NBA drafts in June. Basketball season for college ends in March. So push the WNBA draft further back because you could still, do that piece. Again, August is a dead month.
Yeah.
So you can modify your season.
So you're saying push the college basketball draft back.
Make the draft after the season. So if you move the WNBA season up, then like the Vegas Summer League happens right after the NBA draft.
Mm-hmm.
Man, what do you think the energy would be if the NBA and the WNBA had drafts around the same time in a big major city with multiple venues, and now we're all over the place? Or if the WNBA draft is just before the NBA draft or just after, and then everybody's in Vegas for a WNBA showcase or something, just like, so basketball is at the same place. Other people would say, one of my board members, Rochelle Coleman, who's awesome, Hall of Famer, all of that stuff, would say, I want to be on my own. And I respect the heck out of that. But I'm an idea guy too. And it's just, I think they don't do enough. And I think they don't get enough help, but I also think they don't help themselves by not chartering flights, by paying so low. Did you see that that trophy Kelsey Plum got for winning? I mean, things like that like irritate me. That thing looked like something I gave y'all. Okay, I think I gave y'all better stuff.
but hold on, but coach, so
go ahead, man.
You got to remember, so a lot of these players are playing overseas.
Yes,
and they get more money overseas. So we're not
100%.
talking about the top players, the Asia Wilsons. Like, you got to realize everybody else, they're getting like 20,000, 30,000.
Yes.
So if they can go overseas and get more money, their season isn't over until end of May, June.
Yes.
So we can't put that, and that's why they made the new rule of, WNBA players, if you don't get back by a certain time, you can't play in the WNBA, which is I think is bogus, because if you're not going to give them more money, you can't stop them from going overseas and making their money tax free. So we can't move the season up, because already the season starts in June. I don't know if you pay attention, but some of the players they come mid season. You know what I mean? Like those players, like, where were they at the first 3 games? No, they were overseas in a championship game.
Yes.
Then they, now they're joining their prospective teams in W. So it's more so of, if we extend the season, all right, yes, we got to give them more money.
Yes.
You got to give them more money, because even Diana Taurasi, it was one year she missed. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah, she said, I ain't coming because I'm getting paid $1 million.
Yeah, she decided to work.
The Russian team gave her extra money to miss. They gave her more money than she was making at W to miss the season. They said, look, we're going to pay your salary, and I'll give you an extra certain amount of money not to play in the WNBA season or something. And she didn't.
Yeah.
So
she shouldn't have.
Exactly. Money talks. So it's like, look, if you're going to extend the season, you got to pay the players. Plain and simple. Because if they're not going to pay them, and I'm not talking about the top players. I'm talking about the whole, like, everybody.
I'm talking about the Wilcots. Yes, they need to get their money too. They need to get their money too.
It's tough. And then you say, like, all right, well, if we expand the season, then now it's going into other sports. And like I said, I understand August is a dead month, which is, I mean, they still the championship was just played in
played in September.
Yeah, so they're still playing, but it's like, if we're going to extend it past, you can't extend it past football season. You just can't.
No, you know I would do my championship in August and then get out.
Yeah.
That's me. That's my chicken behind saying I don't want to. The NFL runs everything, man. I mean, how many people got Amazon Prime now because they don't want to miss Thursday's game? That's power. I don't want. The internet's undefeated, and so is the NFL.
Yeah.
So I'm not fighting the internet, and I'm not fighting the NFL. But man, I appreciate all of you letting me have this type of dialogue, and I'm sure my partner, when he hears the show, will be like, "Man, what about this?" And we have to get a female perspective, so we try to get Rochelle on soon, and my favorite coach, Tanya Banks. We have to call Coach Banks and see if we can get her on as well. But on behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, and my two players who I love dearly, I am Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.